Hi everybody, Jonathan here and welcome back to another Twinmotion tutorial. Today is the day that I would like to basically do a really nice automotive tutorial using my favourite car, the Audi R8. It's a car that I've absolutely loved for years, and while I don't have one yet, it's definitely an aspiration maybe to think about having one of these bad boys one day. So if you're like me and you like to have a look at alternative things to architecture today, I think you'll really enjoy this tutorial. So let's get started with how to visualize your favorite car or product in a really cool way in no time at all using the latest Twinmotion. Okay, so let's get started with this new tutorial. So actually the very first thing I'm going to do is back out into my home screen, and I'm going to start with the days and nights template. If you haven't downloaded this already, just make sure you download it. I'm going to basically open this one up. I won't save the original file that I've worked on, that's fine. And let's go for it. So the really nice thing about this template is the fact that it has some really wonderful preset scenes that I'm going to use during this tutorial. I can also add some of my own as we go as well. So you notice that basically if I want to, I can go to my user library, and in my user library I've now added a little folder called cars where I've actually got my Audi R8 stored. Now these were SketchFAB, I believe. You can find them via the SketchFAB site. We may search for another car in a moment and add those in. So basically let's just drag and drop one of those into the scene, and let's drag the other one into the scene as well. You can see they take a little while to load in, but once they're in, they should actually be pretty quick. If I wanted to add another one, you can see it would be very straightforward. So maybe I will actually add one more. And let's basically see if we can kind of just position these in a kind of little way that would look pretty cool. Let's give this a bit more space, I think, and let's kind of pan around. Okay, so the very first thing that I want to do is just basically show you how you can easily manipulate the scenes. So if we start on the first one, this is the first scene. Look at the second one. Now look at the lighting already just by going through. So basically you can really pick the most appropriate sort of background that you would like using the standard sort of skies and things from the basically template, days and nights template. So I definitely recommend you explore some of these. It's quite a nice one. See which one your favourite is, and you can kind of get a bit of a flavour for the different sort of shots. Now I do quite like that one, but I think what we'll do is we'll start off with some sort of fairly atmospheric day and night scene with these nice clouds to begin with. Okay, good. So that's the first thing. We've dragged in a few of our lovely cars. So the second thing we're going to want to do is once we drag those in, I'm just going to move that scene to the beginning, is if I want to, I can now adjust the view. So let's kind of just get a slightly different view of my cars, looking sort of down a little bit here, and basically click plus. Okay, I do find that it's quite nice to drag that back up to the top. In fact, I'll put that right at the beginning, just so it's right there. Okay, so the next thing I'm actually going to do is go and sort out the groundscape. I don't really like this ground at all. So I'm going to go into my materials, and let's try ground. Let's go to man-made, and I would like to try maybe some nice sort of cobblestones. So I'm just going to kind of drag in a few of these until I find the one that I quite like the look of. And I think, yeah, that one actually is really nice. So we've got a nice sort of cobblestone sort of basically base that we can work with. And at the moment, because of the kind of rain on here, you see we've got a bit of reflectivity. Okay, so there's a huge range of different materials that you can try out. And basically, don't forget that once you've actually got those materials in the scene, you can access them and sort of drag them back in straightforwardly here. Okay, so next up, we've done that sort of groundscape. The next thing, I think I prefer, my favourite one is this one here for now, but we can always change this later. The next thing I want to do is click onto my material picker, choose the green from this car here, and see if we can actually change this. Okay, so let's just zoom into this car at all here. Now you notice over here I've got the colour, and if I do want to, I can clearly just click onto my colour picker and just sort of start swapping that colour around, and that looks pretty cool, and choose a really sort of nice colour for my Audi R8 here. That looks really nice. I can also change the brightness and sort of make it a little bit more matte finish or a little bit more shiny. So when it's 0%, obviously it'll be matte. Let's get it right up, cranked right up. But it still doesn't look really as good as it should do in terms of sort of car paint and so on. So what I would recommend for you to do now is go to your library, go to materials, and you will notice down at the very bottom is a really fantastic, relatively new car paint. So if we click onto this, the real beauty of these car paints is you can see they've got a really nice sort of set of kind of pearlescence and things like that in them. Okay, so let's just drag a few of these in. You can basically see they've got some really nice settings. So we'll start off with something fairly neutral. Let's try this sort of whitish view. Now if I go through, you'll see that we can actually enable something called chameleon. Now it doesn't really show so much with that particular colour, but if I go for something like this, here we go, and enable, I think you'll be able to kind of really sort of see, perhaps if I move the view around to something a little bit more on the light side, let's go around to this side, you can basically really kind of start to see a bit of an effect of the sort of chameleon colour coming in now, can you see? So especially as I adjust my colour picker, and basically that looks pretty good. I really like that colour. Okay, so having done that, I think I will just take my other car. I do like the blue one, okay, but let's try out a different car paint here. I'm going to go for a really nice sort of turquoisey blue. If I do want to adjust that to be a little bit lighter or a bit darker, I can. And as well as the chameleon setting, you'll notice the second setting I just want to talk about is this one called pearlescence. So if we click enable on there, you might not see it so much on this particular view, okay, and that's because we've got a lot of reflectivity and shadow, but let me go in quite closely, okay, and you can see that the pearlescence just makes it a little bit more grainy, and basically with that you can kind of change that intensity. So I think that looks really, really nice. Let's get the reflections up a bit more as well. So wow, already my cars are looking pretty spicy, and I'm very impressed. Okay, so we've had a good play around with the car paint, but as I say, there's all sorts of things you can do in there. In fact, there's just one more setting I just want to show you, and that is what they call the flakes. So if I click with flakes enabled, just see if we can kind of determine, if we go really close into that bonnet there, I'm going to go very slow speed and just see if I can kind of just see, just very subtle. Okay, but you can actually enable, and maybe if I go for slightly different sort of coloured flakes, something a bit more vibrant, and just see if I can enable that and disable it. Yeah, it's a very subtle difference. So basically you can also go in and adjust all the weights of those as well. So things like orange peel, all of these have a bit of an effect on your car. You can definitely see the orange peel as I adjust that slider and make it much more intense, and the size of it as well. Yeah, you know, that looks a bit sort of silly for the car, wouldn't be quite that rough, but definitely you do see this on sort of high-end cars, particularly those that have been wrapped. Okay, so let's zoom back out to our view. So I'm going to go back to my media dock and see where we are. Okay, so the next thing I really want to do is adjust the lighting. Now, to do this, we just need to go to ambience, and basically there's two things I can do. I can kind of just adjust that weather a little bit, and it obviously does look nice with a little bit of reflection on the ground, just a little bit of rain, but not actually raining itself. The other option is to go slightly beyond the rain, so it kind of just dries out a little bit. We could obviously adjust the season as well, very easily, as you've seen me do in Twinmotion, very straightforward as well. Next up though, I really want to go to the HDR environment and adjust this. Now this is the key thing I want to play with. So I've got this intensity value of the HDRI. You can see if I go, you know, completely zero, it doesn't show at all barely. So I can just kind of adjust that refinement there. I can also just rotate it round to try to find the optimum view in my viewport as I'm moving around. And I think that actually looks pretty nice, in that the other one was a little bit too sort of bright almost and a bit too well lit. And finally, if I want to, I can scroll right up to the top and just sort of increase that exposure level a little bit, because it was looking a little bit dark on the darker side of some of those cars. Let's just have a little look at sort of what happens if we kind of spin those round. No, that looks okay. And basically I can just reposition these as required, just to kind of really make that scene pop and come to life. Okay, so we're almost finished on this very first visual. The next thing that I'm going to do is basically set these up for path tracing. So what I'd recommend is you might want to basically just adjust that view one more time. Let's just zoom in a little bit here just to get a nice sort of bit of depth in there. I think what we'll do is we'll bring this car forward a little bit more, just so we can kind of really see it in the visuals. Okay, that looks pretty cool. Let's click update. So I'm going to basically click onto duplicate, and with my second image, which I'm going to drag right to the top here, let's just drag that to the side. This one, I'm actually going to turn the path tracing on. So the path tracer is not enabled at the moment. The visual looks already pretty amazing. And when I click onto the path tracer, you'll know that basically everything changes in terms of its render quality a little bit because of the bounces and the reflections that you're going to experience. So basically the reason I duplicate the views is I need to adjust the lighting levels between them. Otherwise things can get a bit too bright and the reflections a little bit too much. So let's adjust this new one with the path tracing. And by the way, I'm working in sort of medium settings. If I go to low settings, I can almost, move around, not quite, but almost in real time as well. This depends on your graphics card and your GPU. I've got a pretty good one. It's a 4070 Ti, so that works really well. So let's go medium settings. So now basically I'm going to do a bit more tweaking. I don't think I need it quite as light. Definitely going to darken that down a little bit. I think I'm going to just try sort of changing that weather. It definitely looks a bit nicer with the sort of slight sort of water reflecting, but not too much. Okay, and here you can see the GI just updating. I'll go take it back a little bit more just so we get that nice reflectivity on there as well. Okay, so that's looking really good. And the final thing that I want to do, of course, is take my HDRI probably and just search for that new rotation, just to see if there's something that looks even more dramatic in my visual. Now with the path tracing, it definitely takes a few seconds to do the updating, so just be patient. If I go to maybe low settings, that will be a bit more rapid. Let's see how that looks. And yeah, it definitely looks a bit brighter if I get that sort of sun coming behind. But let's just sort of have that. I'm going to have that, see if I get it coming in from the other side. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. Just sort of coming in quite bright over there, just into the image. So now let's just up the intensity a little bit, not too much though. Okay, and now I'm pretty happy with that image. So if I want to, I can click update. And finally, let's go ahead and just set these up to be at least 4K. You know what, if I want to, I could render these right out at say 8K resolution. Okay, and let's do the same with this one. Okay, so we'll render that out at 8K as well. So basically I've got two visuals, one with the path tracing with these lovely reflections. And of course what I need to do is crank that up to high settings so that when I actually render the final visual, the high settings of the path tracer will be the ones that I actually experience. Okay, so already I'm pretty pleased with my couple of base images. Let's go and set up a couple of more views. So I'm intrigued to see what would happen if I place this in a different kind of context. Much more of a kind of nighttime context. So I'm going to kind of try and work with this one for a bit now. So I think the first thing we need to do here is just sort of zoom into our cars, and basically we need to get a little bit of life going on in this image. So let's go ahead and duplicate the base image. We'll drag that up to the top again just so we can kind of work with it, and let's just do those couple of adjustments. So we'll adjust the view, just trying to find the nicest sort of backdrop. If we want to go eye level, click M, get down to eye level, and then let's just walk forward. Yeah, okay, that's looking pretty nice. Okay, clearly it's a bit dark. So what we're going to do is click on ambience. Just remember to update the view. So click M, and let's just click onto the view update. Okay, so let's click on ambience, go to environment, and as I say, the very first thing you're always probably going to want to start with is just that overall exposure level of the image itself. Now you may also want to go in here and click auto exposure on, but obviously for night shots what that will do is blow the brightness right up. So I would recommend you turn that off for nighttime images. There are some other things in here, things like the moon intensity and sort of the ambient lighting. Now the ambient lighting is quite nice because that just brings out those cobblestones a little bit more. Obviously you've got white balance as well, and that can, definitely go a bit more bluey in the image when you've got these sort of night shots. So you might want to just sort of tone that down from blue just to something a little bit more natural. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead, if I may, and just sort of swap out the material to something a little bit different. I'm going to kind of swap it out and just sort of searching to see what would look really nice. Yeah, I think that'll look pretty nice, but I just want to kind of get that nice and reflective, just to get those nice sort of reflections coming in for the scene there on the tarmac. Okay, the other thing that I feel like we need for this particular image is a bit more life. Okay, so for this particular image, I'm going to go through to my characters. I'm going to actually go to groups to begin with, and basically I'm just going to bring in some people into my scene and just sort of get a little bit of a kind of fast and furious sort of type scene going on here. You know, the one where there's always someone sort of, you know, partying around the car. So what I can now do, which is pretty cool, is open up my groups, and let's start with this first group and select those people and basically give them a slightly different action. So I'm going to see what happens if we kind of go some dancing, and even amazingly you can change the type of dancing, so we'll kind of tone that down a little bit. So let's go to this other group. I think those are the sort of camera guys, so we'll leave them. Let's go to this little group of people here, and again let's just sort of have them dancing. I think let's see what different types of dance. Oof, brilliant, lovely dancing there, very inspiring. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And basically we can also just go to the animated humans and just start dragging in a few of these into the scene as required. So this guy's looking pretty cool. Here he is, here's his lovely partner here, just having a drink. So, you know, you can see, you can really kind of very rapidly, let's get Brian in from the Fast and Furious, perhaps, one of my favourite other films if you like cars. And basically let's have Camille, he's chatting to here too. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with my scene. Let's click update. But one problem you're going to find is that if you go back to your original images, of course you may not want all these people dancing away in there. So very straightforward to sort out. All you need to do is select all of those groups, okay, and basically right click, move them to a new container. Let's call that people, okay. And then we can just turn off all the people. Let's just move those final ones in there as well. It does sort of help actually to have a little bit of life. So what we might do is just kind of keep these guys here, just sort of move them back a bit into the scene, and we'll keep these two here again, just sort of standing. Let's have them facing the camera, just sort of in front of their car. That's a nice little position there. Okay, so I'm pretty happy. So basically I've gone from having all the people, okay, let's on this particular visual, we'll just drag those into the scene and I'll turn them all off, okay, and click update. So no people, just the people that I wanted. There was one problem. I forgot to turn them off. And just turn those groups off. So just leaving those two. Do remember to click the update button, of course, to save those settings. Excellent. Now do remember also with the path tracing, you know, that can take a few more minutes to render. So I've got lots of people, no people, just a couple of people. Then I've got my nighttime scene with a really sort of big party going on. Okay, so I'm going to select my visual here and basically go to the render tab. Let's choose 8K once again for that particular image. Okay, so I'm really happy with my 3 base images. The final thing that I want to do is set up a really cool animation. So to do this, I'm going to go basically onto my video setting and I'm basically going to click create a keyframe. So it's as simple as that. Now, what I want to do actually here is basically just move the camera a bit closer, just update the camera, and basically I just want to kind of pan across our scene, just sort of swing around, doing a little kind of panoramic. Let's just pan around. I think that's nice. Just sort of pause that there and click play. Good. Okay, so basically if I want to, I can rewind, play that simple animation through of my Fast and Furious scene. Not sure what city this is. Yeah, someone in the chat will let me know, I'm sure. Looks a bit like one of the cities in China, Beijing or Shanghai maybe, I'm not sure. Okay, so that's very, very nice. Let's just set up one more little clip, but if I do want to, I can click onto adding a part. So for this, I'm just going to basically zoom in a little bit more to really focus on the cars now. Okay, so I think for this particular scene, I want to get rid of those people, so I'm going to basically turn them all off. Just sort of focus in a bit here and click refresh. Now I'm going to basically just zoom in and kind of pan into a really nice sort of close-up. Okay, let's just get that sorted. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so basically on this second clip, the people have been turned off, just focusing in really, really nicely on panning around to getting a view of that wonderful car there with that beautiful car paint, which looks pretty amazing. So the final thing I can do if I want to is just change the amount of time given to this animation just to make it a little bit more smooth. Let's say 15 seconds. Okay, so 15 seconds. Just be careful not to type into the minute section. Let's say 0 there. Okay, I'm also going to slow the other clip down. So again, let's just type in 15 seconds. But the thing that I really want to do is when I export these animations, I'm going to export them at 60 frames a second. And you'll see the difference that makes. Okay, so let's now move on to the export. We'll go to click export. And what I can do is basically select my images, click plus. Just going to select my first 3 images. I can always do some more later, and that's fine. And basically let's also go ahead and select my video clip. I've only got one video, but you'll notice that video will be in 2 different parts. Okay, so if you do want them as separate parts, there is an option for that. Basically, I can actually go down and enable that as 60 frames a second. And here, you'll notice that if you do want to, you can just add the individual parts as separate videos rather than sort of one individual. Okay, so that's the option, how you add them as 2 parts. So if I've added those parts, I actually don't need to add the video itself, so I can actually disable that. Okay, because I've actually got them added as the video parts. Let me just check. Yep, they're still in their video part. Okay, fantastic. So I think what we'll do, we'll just save our project slightly. So file, let's do save as, and let's just call this Audi R8 scene. Okay, so we've got the file saved just in case anything happens, and let's go for it. Let's render this out. Now I won't render the animations using path tracing because that does take a little while. And when we're ready, we can just click onto the export tab, scroll to the bottom and click export. So let's save those into our projects folder. Let's just save those into the right place, into the Audi folder. And we'll make a new little folder in here. Audi R8. Okay, so we've got our folder selected. Let's hit render and see how long these take. Now, the images should render really quick, even though they are 4K, although with path tracing it can take a little bit longer, and the videos will really rip depending on what GPU you've got. Now, if you do want to, let me just bring across my NZT cam, and this will basically show you my sort of computer setup, because I know we always get asked about this. And what you notice really is that the CPU is not doing a lot, even though I've got a very, very good CPU itself. But the GPU is the thing that's doing all the hard work. So if you are speccing up a computer for Twinmotion, yes, super nice to have a very fast 12-core CPU, but it really is the GPU that does the hard work. So I'd recommend, a nice RTX graphics card for sure. Okay, so as you can see, that's going to go ahead. And what we'll do, we'll come back in a minute and I'll report on the times and we'll review those final images at the end of the video. But as ever, I really hope you've enjoyed watching this video. It's been super fun to make. I just wanted to make something a bit different on Twinmotion and also a bit different from the normal architectural viz I've been doing before, and showing you how you can use Twinmotion for product or automotive design. So if you are new around here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I've got loads of exciting videos planned, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.